before we wrap up tonight, though, this has been a week that has, it feels like the Skeleton Crew hype machine is starting, but it does feel like it's not flying out of the gate. I talked to Nick, I talked to my dad. You and I reference our fathers as Star Wars fans all the time, and I asked him, I said, what are your thoughts on Skeleton Crew? Let me actually read you the exact response because I thought it was quite interesting. I said, as a normie, what are your thoughts on Skeleton Crew? He said, I haven't watched it yet. When did it start? That's problem number one for Disney. I said it hasn't, and I said I'm trying to see if people care, and he says I care, but I don't see a big build up about it. So, in addition to that, I threw out onto Twitter just today for a couple hours. I wanted to see, with the 4 things coming up, Andor, Skeleton Crew, the Mando and Grogu movie, and the Rey movie, what people are most looking forward to. What do you guys think they said?
My guess would be that they said Andor.
Nick?
I will throw out, if we're going wide range, I'm guessing Mando Grogu, but I think Andor is right there behind it.
Andor was what they selected.
Oh wow.
The thing that's surprising to me, dramatically, and that doesn't shock me that it's so dramatic, because I think a lot of people are excited about Andor. What did shock me, though, is that we are less than 2 months, a month and a half away, 50 days, something like that, from Skeleton Crew, and only 9% of people, less than 9% of people, have that as something that they're looking forward to. And granted, look, they're probably like us. They want all 4, but if they have to pick one today, it's going to be that. But here's the sort of hot take that I have on this is, in a way, I don't think it matters, because I don't think that Skeleton Crew is going to be for adult Star Wars fans. I think it's going to, I mean, if you look at the stills we saw in Empire magazine so far, they are, I mean, for all intents and purposes, they're the cast of E.T., right? I mean, it is a very young, kids-friendly cast. And I think that with the shit show that happened with Acolyte, as far as fans attacking the show, I wonder if, and I'd love your guys' thoughts on this, I wonder if Disney is kind of like, you know what? We're going to let kids find this. We're going to push it to a younger audience. We don't want to bring in the geeks and gamers and the Star Wars theories and the people who are going to have a problem with anything that they put out. We want this show to build on kids. And are they going to, as a result, end up maybe missing an opportunity? I'd love your thoughts. And Jim, as somebody who's in television, how do they go about promoting a show like this to make sure that they get what it needs to be successful from it?
Yeah, it's a really, really good question. It's possible that what you're saying is true, that they're aiming to under promise and over deliver, and seeing, if they can capture people with the cute factor again, the way they did with, remember, Grogu was not Grogu. He was Baby Yoda for a while. And so all of that's possible. There's also the little bit of like, they can market it all they want, but in the end, they control now how aggressively it's fed to you. When you go on Disney Plus in the middle of December, it will be right in front of your face. So I don't know. It's really hard. It's really hard for me to wrap my mind around the release campaigns and marketing of these things. We feel like TV wise, we're in the place we were for Solo, a Star Wars story. Like when the release came just in a moment where people were over it. Right. And it's not one of my favorite movies, but I just don't think you could have drummed up a fervor around that, So I wonder if this is in a similar place, and if they're going to try to let it win on its own merits. It's an interesting thought, Pete.
Nick, what do you think?
Yeah, I want to jump in and say, and I just kind of had this thought, so it's not fully developed, but as you were kind of setting this up, I'm going to throw Stranger Things out there. Like we talk about a younger cast, a younger crew and obviously Stranger Things is kind of a little bit horror, whatever we, term that as, but it's targeted a certain way, but we're not going to put too much effort in it. But I think more adults are going to be into it than we anticipate. You've got Jude Law, you've got what's his name, the pirate. Like, it is still, you know, we've talked about, it's a family show, and we've heard that. Like, it's Goonies, it's E.T., it's Amblin. Those things I'm all in for because I grew up with all of those things. But I feel like there's a little bit of like, ooh, there's a slight cult something that could develop out of this with a similar, there's a young cast. But this young cast could be like, holy crap, we love them the same way we love Millie Bobby Brown and all the people that are in Stranger Things, that now we're still dying and waiting for this final season of Stranger Things that's going to show up at some point. I think there's a lot there, and I think that it has the potential. I don't understand marketing fully because I don't work in this world. I don't live in this world. There's a part of me that goes, okay, we're talking about December. It's going to come out. Halloween's next week. Like, November, I feel like we're going to feel the speed pick up. We're going to start seeing some things drop.
But it's interesting you talk about marketing, though, because of all the shows, this is the first one where we're actually getting toys before the show comes out. Right. The Lego of the whatever, I don't remember what the name of the ship is called that Jude Law flies. I'm assuming it's his ship. That Lego's been out for months, and they just dropped Black Series figures of the characters from this movie. So maybe this is like they're marketing it as a kids show, and taking a different tack on it. And I think I'm excited about that. But then I also then look at social media, and I look at people who are looking for, I mean, there was a guy today on Twitter who was bitching about the Neil, and they said it looks like ass, because that's what you do when you're on Twitter. You complain about something that you haven't even seen yet. Number two, they were saying, how does he even get that sweater over his big head? And I'm like, holy crap. We're already explosions in space and bricks and screws on this show, which hasn't even come out yet.
They don't have buttons in this galaxy. They don't have they don't have hideaway Velcro or zippers or anything.
I mean,
how is it possible to put a shirt on if your head's too big?
Yeah. Let's not even spend time with the Mon Cows with the cable knit sweaters from Mandalorian when he crashed his ship into the water.
This is just the kind of great content you're going to get on every night on Firtha. Just to make sure that we're all being really clear.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just there's two other thoughts that come to mind. One is, like, you know, there was almost no marketing for Agatha, right? Agatha all along. Like, this nugget was dropped at the height of Marvel TV excitement. That, you know, it was Agatha all along, kind of ender to WandaVision. And then nothing. We didn't hear anything until it arrived, and word of mouth is being like, oh, it's spooky, it's Halloween season, it's really fun, you should watch it. This is everything I'm hearing. And so I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna actually make sure that I make time for this. And they might just have limited resources, like just literally limited marketing dollars that have been set aside for this. Their marketing dollars might have been cut after the catastrophe of the past year with marketing. There seemed to have been some of that with Lego Rebuild the Galaxy as well. There seemed to have been, like, literally creators of that show trying to get word of mouth out, you know, themselves. So it might just be TV's in a little bit of a rough place and budgets are being cut everywhere, and it really might be that simple, that they are saving it for our short attention spans for like the week before it goes out, and then you're going to get flooded with it, and the idea is going to be that it's the holiday season, it's a family show, and maybe it'll get the same word of mouth. Well, that would be my guess.
I think you nailed it with the Agatha stuff, because honestly, I tweeted today, and it was a hot take, and it was a legitimate, not really well thought out tweet, but I kind of believe just if you follow me on Twitter, just know most of the things I say I kind of believe, but
in the moment
I feel like Agatha is one of the best MCU shows that Disney has done, and I think you're onto something there. It's reaching a very specific audience, right? And the LGBTQ community is well represented and overtly represented in that show, but so was the same audience represented in The Acolyte, but they led with that. And we saw what happened there. Whereas with Agatha, it's like, if you're into witches and whatever, watch this show. And if you're in the LGBT community, you're going to enjoy the show, but we're not going to promote that. We're not going to go out with this Star Wars show and say, hey, this is a show for 12-year-olds. We're just going to say there's a Star Wars show out there. And if you find it and you and your family dig it, that's exactly what we want. If you don't, that's fine. So I think there's something to be learned with the way they didn't promote Agatha, right? And again, it's such a great show, and I think the pressure is off it, because I don't feel like Disney even cares that people are people aren't even really complaining about it the way they did about the Acolyte, right? And it's the same community that could be attacked, but nobody's attacking it. And maybe it's because they're not making it a flagship, and so there's less interest in making shitty clickbait content.
There was a lot for the Acolyte, and I thought the Acolyte was wonderful. I personally loved it. I also agree with something you said earlier. I think you said this, Pete, right? Like, you're allowed to not like something. Like, that's okay.
Yeah.
But the whole framing of the entire series in the press tour leading up to the series was just a lot of hornet nest kicking. Yep. And I don't even mean necessarily, I'm not going to go down any sort of identity politic-y thing or whatever. My thought is, if you're getting worked up about that, you're wrong. But it's not something you really need to be shouting first and foremost to people's faces when you're standing behind your story. Let your story do that. And it is just like Star Wars Junket 101. Like, don't say that you don't know who blew up the Death Star. Like, if you're doing a Star Wars property, it's not cool. It's not funny. I teach a business of acting course and to MFA actors, and I asked 8 directors and writers to give us their do's and don'ts, and several said showing up in the room and acting like you don't know, you haven't read the script, you don't know what's going on is not cool. If you think it's making you sound aloof, and it's not a great idea. Right. I don't mean to be coming down on anything, but so that less is more, maybe sometimes. And maybe this is that moment,
For sure. Yeah, no. And I think it'll be interesting to see the way it plays out. Look, I think maybe also Disney knows that the 3 of us on the screen are going to watch anything that they put the Star Wars logo on. So they don't need to come for us. And again, they have all the data, right? It's like Netflix. Netflix makes decisions on the algorithm, and it's that whole ugly scene from Barry, and it's funny and it's true. But they know that my son's account is on Disney X number of hours, and when he comes in and sees, Neil the little blue elephant boy and a lightsaber, he's gonna go, I'm gonna check that out.
100%.
They're not relying on angry YouTubers to talk about, well, this doesn't fit into canon because there's no way a teak would be on Tatooine or whatever. Just let it happen and have some fun with it. And I love that they're actually kind of sort of backseating this. And I mean, the Empire, here's the other thing that kind of tipped me off to this sort of thinking, is the Empire magazine, which is coming out, which is going to feature those interviews that they've been focusing in Twitter, and you've been seeing some things come up on StarWars.com. Every other Empire magazine Star Wars series article was a cover story. This is not the cover story. This is just a story within an upcoming Empire magazine. And so I like this. Maybe they're like, we're going to chill out until the movies come out. We know Andor season 2 is going to kick butt because people loved it. People want to know what happened next. We probably don't need to go crazy with that. We have Star Wars Celebration coming at the same time, probably. Let's let this show go out and let's see what happens. So I'm curious to see.
So what you're saying is they've decided to just fly casual.
There you go.
Exactly. That's it. That is it.